Our next segment will be on speed.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
It hurts to think those airplanes are all retired now, but it's just where we are. So what does speed really mean? Well, here's an example, a very popular example of one manifestation of speed. So in a set course of fire, with lots of mental preparation, so that's one manifestation or measure of speed. He had a chance to do his pre-shooting kata. He understood the course of fire, the targets didn't move, and the only stress he had was that beep to set him off. Here's another look at speed. Now in the back, you'll see this gentleman's walking around, holding people at gunpoint, robbing them. Everyone else is pretty much clueless. The point there is that young man was task absorbed in his iPod. He looked up and there was a gun in his face. There was no shooter ready. Beep! There was a lethal threat in his face, and he reacted to it that quickly. You'll also notice as the scuffle continued, he took the time to put that iPod in his pocket. Kind of crazy. So we tend, in the shooting community, to concentrate on shooting speed, because it's our favorite. We can quantify it, we can capture metrics and record progress, and ultimately it can give us some pretty major bragging rights in certain circles. I have a love-hate relationship with shot timers. I love them because they give us a way to measure to an objective standard a given task. And it tracks our progress, and it forces efficiency. To improve on time, there's things that you have to do to make that happen. So it whittles away extraneous motion and forces efficiency. The downside, it can become an ego pride thing. For the longest time, there are certain drills that will become the fad du jour, and that's all people will do is shoot that drill. They'll rehearse it like 45 times, and then they'll capture the last go-around for YouTube or social media, and off we go. And I think that's kind of a misapportionment, but I've got nothing against people pushing the outside of that envelope. But how about these tasks? Can I put a timer on managing a contact? That's more of an outcome-based event. Should there be a time standard for applying a tourniquet or a pressure dressing? I think maybe 10, 12 seconds would be good. How about employing obstacles? Moving chairs and whatnot around to prevent someone from moving toward me. Or navigating to a parking lot at night. No timer. Those are outcome-based events. So in the context, the speed of that first accurate shot, I cannot deny the criticality of that speed, that skill set. But in our world, the stimulus for that response and the decision process behind it is even more important. So for us, it comes down to mental preparation for that transitional moment from going about our daily life to employing lethal force. Cognition and decision making. Mental preparedness raises our shock threshold. That's why I'm exposing you to all these videos. It's a form of vicarious experience. You're actually seeing things, novel stimulus. And your brain is not going to know the difference between that and reality if you ever encounter it in your daily life. Our shock threshold is the point at which that this is my normal daily life, but I see something so egregious, such an affront, it blows my shock threshold. And I default to inaction as I process the event. So if our mind is prepared, we can reduce the time it takes to deliver our rehearsed, programmed, appropriate response. Let you read that. So what I'm exposing you to is something I learned inadvertently some years ago. I've long had videos in my presentations. And some time ago, I had a couple in a class. And at the end of the class, my friend Erica walked up and said, "I very much appreciate your incorporation of recognition prime decision modeling in your presentations." She's a cognitive neuroscientist. And I said, of course. I found Smith at MIT particularly revealing. I just thought they were cool videos. So what we're doing is we're using our personal experience plus what we're learning vicariously to educate you, to enable you to assess situations, recognize patterns, and employ appropriate responses. And here's an example. I'm going to just we can pull this apart. Watch this video. You have a couple out walking their dog. Car moves past them. Then watch his response. He orients. And now he's confronted with multiple armed suspects. The dog's like, look, new friends. As you can see, they're profoundly traumatized by this event. So we're doing some science here. I'm giving you this vicarious experience. It's a low-cost method to reduce novel stimulus because the brain hates novel stimulus. It forces a reset. Like what? I don't understand what this is. I have to process. That's a time gap. As Master John Farmer would say, we die in the gaps. So speed of recognition primes decisive action based upon our predecisions and pre-assembled skill sets. Now, we're going to default now to Colonel John Boyd, the author of the OODA loop. Colonel Boyd was a fighter pilot in the Air Force, did a lot of amazing things. He was largely unrecognized genius at his time. I recommend to you a book, John Boyd, The Fighter Pilot That Changed War. I can't do the title well, by a guy named Coram. He started out flying F-86s against MiG-15s, or that era. And he realized that the MiG-15 could climb better, it was more maneuverable, but the F-86 could transition left, right, up, down quicker than the MiG could follow. The F-86 had a hydraulically boosted control set. The MiG didn't have that. And that's when he got the idea that the speed of transition from point to point to point to point was very important, which would allow maneuver. He took all that. He helped design the Century series, well, the F-16, F-15 fighters. He had a huge impact, just beyond my capacity to discuss it. His seminal work was the Fighter Attack Study. My friend Claude Warner, the technical professor, is pulling it apart. I cannot work at that level, okay? So let me just dumb this down to my level here. Colonel Boyd came up with what referred to as the OODA loop. And that is, we go through life, we observe things, what's happening around us. We orient on these observations, and we put them through the filter of our experience. We decide on a course of action, and then we act. And it runs in a cycle. Observe, orient, decide, act. Observe, orient, decide, act. Now, we got some synergy going on here, some acronyms. Recognition, prime, decision modeling, and OODA are like peas and carrots. They go along together. because using RPDM speeds up my OODA cycle, my decision cycle, because I've already got recognized patterns and pre-programmed actions to them. And our goal here is to defeat what my friend John Hearn refers to as the orienting response to a novel stimulus. And here's the RCA Victor dog. That dog, for the first time, is hearing his master's voice from a phonograph. He's like, what the hell is that? I don't understand. This is a museum walkthrough in Tunisia, I believe. There's an explosion. Everyone goes, what was that? Novel stimulus. That was the second one. Now we have a recurring pattern. Those are hand grenades. This is a terrorist attack. And now we have people moving away. Did you see everyone orient to that stimulus? By my count, it was 8 seconds from the first explosion until they actually responded to it by moving away. That's a gap. And as John Farnham says, we die in the gaps. Our goal is to close that gap, remove the orienting response, to accelerate our decision cycle and our action. And here's an OODA lesson from Han Solo. What initiative deficit is a bitch. Sorry, Guido. Han shot first. Can we all agree? Guido found himself behind the curve in the observation, orientation, decision, action cycle. Moving on to cognition and decision making, we can discuss the decision tree. Imagine your life as a forest of decision trees. Things that you'll have to negotiate as you go through life. Which do I take a left or a right to achieve my destination? Well, as we approach our individual decision trees, here's a large one right there. Well, in the self-defense arena, we want that decision tree to be pared down to a little bonsai tree. And I can take my OODA cycle and run it down through that reduced problem set, distilled to the essentials, and work my way through my decision tree quicker. So in order to do that and to focus this, I have to war game our lives. We had those pre-decisions that map time, space, events to skills and desired outcomes. Now, this is an illustration of a military defense, but it's called Intelligence Preparation to the Battlefield and Decision Support Template. If the enemy can attack here or there, here are my options. Well, we're kind of doing the same thing, but with our personal lives. If someone invades my home, if I'm caught in my car, if I'm at an ATM, these boundaries, triggers, and plans have to be within the context, the realm of legality, ethics, morals, and our mindset, and support our strategy of going home. Avoid the fallacy of, well, I'll just punch him, I'll just shoot him, I'll just. Think about, if this happens, I will draw from these options appropriate to that moment. And think responses, not reactions. Responses imply thought and appropriate application. A reflexive reaction, when the doctor hits your knee, that's a reflex reaction. And that's not necessarily what we want in our world. Some more thoughts on this in order to focus your attention and your application of time. Read the local crime reports. I was shocked to learn that there was a double homicide not far from my home recently. I had no idea that it took place, but it just popped up on Facebook. I had no idea that thing had transpired. Engage in visualization exercises. War game things. What happens if? What happens if? What will it look like? When you see a diver in the Olympics on top of that board, and he does this, and he does that, and he does this, where is he already? He's in the water. He has envisioned every perfect twist to make a minimal splash on entry. Do the same thing. Force on force training, I cannot advocate that strong enough. You have to acquire your skills and test them in a slightly adrenalized but very controlled and safe environment. I'm a big fan of Greg Lefritz's active response training. Subscribe to his email. And also my friend John Korea's active self-protection channel on YouTube. He is prodigious at pulling surveillance video apart where we can all extrapolate lessons. The synthesis of all this, the visualization, the skill acquisition, the planning. Well, let me illustrate it with this video. This is a gun store in Georgia. See, the gentleman down here is involved with his paperwork. Boss, we're being robbed. 1 potato, 2 potato, 3. That's actually dust and whatnot coming off the ceiling tiles. The criminal in that case, did you see that response as he went down? I actually had a chance to talk to the coroner that did the autopsy on that kid. And that was, in fact, a fatal shot. Shockingly enough, the store owner there was a master class IDPA shooter. So, competition will get you killed in the streets. I would have to say no. No. Another perspective on this, here's a shot of the store from coming into it. You'll see these gun safes off to the left. You might recall when his assistant, like, boss, what was he doing? He was engaging in deception. All right, we're giving you what you want. Boss, we're surrendering. Boss looked over, saw it. Observation, orientation, decision, action. I would bet that the plan was the assistant then zipped in between those 2 gun safes, freeing up the field of fire, and the masterclass IDPA shooter went to work. That's what it looks like when it all comes together. Thank you very much. I look forward to your questions in the comments.